been hunting for 11 years. I've sat alone in the woods more times than I can count. I've watched the sun rise from a tree stand in places most people would call empty. But one trip almost killed me. And it had nothing to do with an animal. I grew up in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. It's a small town surrounded by state game land. The kind of place where schools close on the first day of rifle season because half the town is in the woods. My dad started taking me hunting when I was 12. By the time I was 23, I was going out alone every weekend. This happened in November of 2021, late archery season. There was already a light dusting of snow on the ground, which is good for tracking. You can see everything that moves. I had permission to hunt 70 acres of private land. The owner was an older guy my dad knew from work. The property was thick woods with a small clearing and an old logging trail running through it. There was an abandoned hunting cabin deep in the back, roof caving in, nobody used it anymore. I'd hunted this land 4 or 5 times before, never saw another soul. That morning was different. I got there at 5:15 a.m., pitch black. I parked my truck by the rusted gate where I always parked, walked in with my headlamp on. The woods were dead quiet. I remember having this feeling, like I was being watched before I even reached my stand. I told myself it was just the dark, the isolation. Every hunter feels it sometimes. I should have listened to my gut. I climbed into my tree stand, 20 feet up, waited for daylight. About an hour after sunrise, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. About 60 yards out, there was another tree stand. A cheap ladder stand, old, weathered, like it had been sitting somewhere for years. It hadn't been there the previous weekend, I was certain. But here's what bothered me more. There were no footprints leading to it. None. Except for one single trail, coming from deep in the woods, straight to the base of that stand. Around 8 a.m., I saw movement near that stand. At first, I thought it was a deer. It wasn't. A man was standing behind a tree. He wasn't wearing camo. He was wearing a dirty gray hoodie and dark pants. He was completely still, looking right at me. Then he raised his arm and waved. Not a friendly wave. It was the kind of wave that just said, "I see you." I waved back, slowly, trying to act normal. He stepped behind the tree. I waited for him to come out the other side. He never did. Around 10 a.m., I climbed down to stretch my legs. I walked toward where I'd seen him. When I got to the tree he'd been standing behind, I stopped breathing. The snow was completely undisturbed, except for my own tracks walking up. There were no footprints leading away, no prints behind the tree, nothing. Just that same single trail of boot prints leading to the ladder stand. I followed them. They stopped at the base of the ladder. I looked up, empty. The seat had a thin layer of snow on it, untouched. That's when I noticed something tied to a branch, a strip of orange hunting vest material, tied in a knot. Then another 15 feet away, then another. They were tied at different heights, like someone was marking something. That was the first time I thought about leaving, but I didn't. I went back to my truck around noon to eat. The whole time I felt it, something watching me from the tree line. I almost left. I should have left. Around 2 p.m., I climbed back into my stand. An hour before sunset, I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, heavy, spaced too far apart to be a deer. I turned around. He was 30 yards behind my stand, closer than before. I could see his face this time. Patchy beard, pale skin, like he hadn't been outside in daylight for weeks. And he was smiling. Not a normal smile, just barely showing his teeth. He was holding something in his right hand. At first, I thought it was a stick. Then I saw the yellow and black handle. It was a screwdriver. I asked him if he had permission to be on the property. He didn't answer. He just stared at me with that half smile for what felt like a full minute. Then he turned, slowly, and walked back into the trees. I should have left right then. I waited until shooting light ended. Stupid. When I finally climbed down, I started walking fast toward my truck. That's when I saw them. The orange strips were everywhere now, not just on branches. Some were tied to sticks, pushed into the ground. Then I saw what was hanging from one of them. A dead squirrel, hung by wire through its back legs. Below it, drawn in the snow with a boot, a circle. Then I saw a rabbit, then a crow, all hung the same way. Markers, or warnings. About 100 yards from my truck, I saw something leaning against a tree. My backpack, the one I'd left in my tree stand. It was unzipped, my gear laid out in the snow. My knife, my flashlight, my extra arrows, all lined up neatly, like someone had taken inventory. He'd been close enough to my stand to climb it without me knowing. I grabbed my stuff and ran. When I got to my truck, the driver's side door was open. I always lock it, always. Nothing was stolen, but my registration papers were sitting on the passenger seat. I got in, locked the doors, started the engine. Then I looked in my mirror toward the tree line. He was standing there, 40 yards away, still smiling. He raised his hand, but this time he didn't wave. He pointed at me. Then he slowly dragged his finger across his own throat. I told the property owner what happened. He said nobody else had permission to be there. He called the game commission. 2 weeks later, officers found a makeshift shelter deep on the property. Tarps and old wood. Inside, they found animal bones and stolen hunting gear from other properties. I never hunted that land again. I don't hunt alone anymore. Because the woods aren't always empty. And sometimes, something is hunting you.